Oh, Gary. Hi, Gary. I think people can, allowed to talk. So people could, if you haven't done a webinar before, you can, if you have any questions, put them in the chat, and then I'll ask them at the end. So allow you to kind of get through your slides.
Fab.
I hope everybody doesn't mind me recording this and then putting it on YouTube and possibly LinkedIn as well. If you've got any problems with that, if you put message in the chat. Oh, we've got 4 people in the chat. Hi, Gary. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, we've got 9 now, so I think if more people join, they can join midway. So everybody, welcome to another Smart Solutions Showcase webinar. I'm Will. We run the Year of Smart Towns project here in Mynton Môn. Today we've got Amy from Root Media, who provide outdoor advertisement solutions. Thank you for joining us today, Amy.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. I think I'll just let you get into it.
Fab. Perfect. Right, I'm going to go ahead, guys, and share my screen. Let's do that first. Okie dokie. Okay, can everyone see it? Oh, I can't see the chat now. So
yeah,
Will, you'll have to tell me if anyone's got any issues, okay?
That's fine.
So yeah, thank you so much, William, for inviting us and Root Media to come on today. I think it's great that we had the initial chat with you guys, and really what I want to do is present a little bit about Root Media, who we are, what we do, and how we can help the Smart Towns Initiative. So first of all, then, I'll introduce myself. So my name is Amy. I'm the head of digital products at Root Media. And we've also got my colleague, Scott, who is one of the attendees. So Scott, you can answer any questions in the chat as well. And Scott is actually the regional sales manager for North Wales, lives in Colwyn. I'm in Brecon, and Root Media, the business, we're a Welsh founded business. We're about 3 years old. We're our head office, so to speak, our office space is based in Cardiff, and we have different people plotted around Wales, as I've just told you. So really, there's 2 arms to Root Media. We've got the advertising arm, and that's always kind of been our main focus. So we are indoor and outdoor advertising specialists. We've recently invested quite heavily into North Wales. We're continuing to do so, also West Wales, and spreading ourselves around a little bit. So we take our expertise as digital signage and advertising experts, and created the second arm of the business, which is my side of the business, which is the digital hardware. So what we look to do is help businesses, industries, communities across Wales to really hybridize the digital and physical worlds. We all know the world changed massively since COVID. I mean, we're on a webinar, we're doing it digitally now. But how can we use that and use our lifestyle change to then come back into the physical world in, like I said, our towns, our communities, our offices, our businesses, etc. So that is what we do. And here's a couple of examples, you may have seen them, of our Root Media kind of inventory across North Wales. So we've got Wrexham, Bangor, we're in Colwyn Bay, in Bayview for our own. I'll come on to Colwyn Bay in a little bit, and Rhyl, and we're working on a couple of other places at the moment. So there's some examples for you there. So first things first, why digital? I've just touched upon it a little bit there, but we really need to look at, in the physical world, so in our day-to-day lives, how do we now capture our audience, and how do we capture people's attention? So where Smart Towns comes in, because that's what lining up the Smart Towns goals. How do we get people back into our communities and engaging with us? Now, millennials on average use about 3 screens a day, whereas Generation Z, which are aged 9 to 24 at the minute, use up to 5 different screens a day and have an actual average attention span of 8 seconds. So really static, traditional paper posters, they're not working for us anymore. They're certainly not going to work in the future. We've got key messaging, key advertisements, key bits we want to get out to our communities. We need to be attention grabbing. So that's one of the reasons for digital. Secondly, saving time and money. Now, you might think, wow, it's an investment, digital screens, so I'm going to give like example prices to everyone. But actually, it's not just about saving paper and the cost of paper. It's the whole supply chain. It's the maintenance. It's the work involved that goes into printing paper notices, for example, advertisements, messaging, whatever it may be, and then going round to individual locations to update those kind of paper posters, and the time and cost that comes up really adds up there. So it's about saving time and money. It's about becoming more efficient, and it's being smarter with our messaging or adverts. It probably makes complete sense to you guys that everything I just said clearly reduces your environmental impact, not only because, again, you're saving on paper or on materials, it's the whole supply chain. So it's how they printed, it's the ink, it's the machinery, it's getting it from A to B to C to D. We're completely removing that. So if we can have a positive environmental impact as well, even better. We can do bits like checking air pollution in your area. So we can put some bits in place when they're installed to work alongside your goals to really capture that data of how it is improving the air quality as well. So that's reducing the environmental impact. Supporting local communities is so important right now. You know, we can do it as much as we can over a webinar, and there's lots of different groups and communities that are doing amazing jobs. Do people know about them? So how can we advertise better to support local groups? But also when we're supporting local communities with something like placing digital screens, digital notice boards, we're showing our communities that we're investing in their future. Because what you're doing right now with a digital presence is you're future proofing for those Gen Zers and even younger, you know, the complete native digital children that we have. And you're providing the businesses with advertising opportunities potentially that aren't there right now, or that they believe aren't affordable. One of the reasons why we've invested ourselves, Root Media, into North Wales with all our different size digital screens is to offer affordable advertising purely for those within the local area. We're also then always getting out relevant, timely messaging, and that can support your local communities. Again, the right messaging to the right people, the right audience at the right times. And then that comes on to my last point, really, about updating in real time and remotely. So you can scrap that one person or a couple of people going around all these different locations to update the messaging and having out-of-date messaging on notice boards. We've all been there, it happens. We know, we know that it happens. That doesn't need to happen any longer with the digital world. You can schedule content in advance and you can change content and it'll update in less than 5 minutes. And you can do that from home if you want to. So if there's key messaging you want to get out there urgently, or if you're going to be nice and organized and structure it, or actually, if we want to give the same messaging across a number of different towns, a number of different locations, we're giving clear, precise messaging to our communities without them having to find what is the current up-to-date thing in the notice board or online. So I would ask if anyone has any questions at this point, but Will, can you let me know?
No, and I think a few more have joined us. So yeah, if you've got any questions, just pop them in the chat as we go along and I'll ask them, but nothing yet. So yeah.
Brilliant, lovely. And I've got space for Q&A at the end as well. So there's going to be ample opportunity to ask away. Like Will said, we'll be sharing this with everybody afterwards as well. So I've tried to highlight the key points within the presentation. Of course, I'm chatting around it too. So anyone just shout. So those are a couple then of the points that I've just picked up. What I probably didn't mention is the study that was completed by Intel. So they looked at a digital billboard, a digital screen, versus a static, which would be a traditional poster print. And the study showed that the digital screens had more than 400% increase in views because it is attention grabbing. So that's there. I believe I covered all the other points. So about updating quickly. It's unlimited content and unlimited messaging. We can obviously provide advice on what we believe is the right split when it comes to using screens to advertise and to communicate, but you can change it as often as you want. Now, we can't really say that about traditional advertising or posters or messaging, because if I said to you, you can change your message as often as you wanted, how many times are you running back and forth to to a printer or getting something delivered or going out? It would just be impossible, and the time and the cost would be massive. You've got complete unlimited control of content, videos, imagery, graphics, whatever you want with digital screens. And of course, I mentioned the real-time targeted data, and I'll come on to that a little bit later on, just how targeted you can be, as well as with, obviously, we decide potentially to put a screen. So, okay, coming on to our case study then. You may or may not have seen that last week we had 4 digital screens, such as this picture here, going live in Colwyn Bay. So why? Well, basically, Colwyn Bay and one of their initiatives, together with Colwyn Bay, completed a resident survey, and the main thing that came out as an issue was that the residents wanted better communication. So everything I just said, they weren't aware of certain groups, certain events, certain resources, and they wanted to know about them. So what Colwyn Bay and a number of different initiatives did was they all got together and looked at a way that they could do this. They actually used some of the Smart Town workshops to help them and guide and assist with what to do. And also what was really important, and it's important to absolutely everyone, is how do we regenerate footfall and regenerate our towns since COVID? Because there's a gap, and we all know that, with ages, with who's going to the towns and how they're going to survive in the next couple of years. This was all super important. So what Colwyn Bay decided to do, and like I said, they worked together with Together for Colwyn Bay, there's Imagine Colwyn Bay and Transforming Towns, and managed to get funding and put forward the idea of having 4 what they call digital notice boards within their towns. And they've opted for single-sided. I'll go through this a little bit later. And lucky for us, for Root Media, we were the chosen supplier of the screens. So we worked closely with them to have, you know, what they wanted them to look like, what would be the key locations for the best footfall to be placed in, and they were placed in 4 different areas around Colwyn. So what Colwyn Bay have actually decided to do is, as I said, they call them digital notice boards, and it's to provide free advertising to local groups and not-for-profits, and that's something that they've committed to doing forever. So that's one benefit to their local community for putting these in. And what they're also doing is, for the first year, is offering free advertising to local businesses with less than 50 employees. And they're refusing larger non-local corporations any advertising space on this. So these are purely put in the ground for the local community, and of course for the town council and Together for Colwyn's different initiatives and events that are happening. Now, what they'll do after that 1 year is review it and see if they want to obviously continue offering it for free to these smaller businesses, or actually if they'll start charging certain businesses to display adverts onto their notice boards. And that in turn then provides a revenue stream back in to the town, back into Colwyn Bay. And of course, it's a return on investment, the cost spent to initially install these screens, amongst all of the other obviously positive outcomes of the screens there. So these is the video playing for everyone. Will, is it playing for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
See we do.
Perfect. I've put a little video on there. Thank you, Scott, for taking the video. Is to show you just how slimline these screens really are and really can be. I'll play it again. Like I said, these are live, so some of the content that's on there right now, we've got the town logo on there. On a couple of others, we've got the Transforming Towns logo and a couple of different bits. But this super slimline, and I hope you agree, they look really sleek. We've had lots of comments on it from the locals. Originally, halfway through the install, wondering what on earth was going in. But it's a truly innovative step for the town and for the communities. It's super exciting. They're one of the first in Wales to have put these in. There's a couple in Cardiff, too. But these are purely the first ones in a town centre in Wales. So it's amazing to see that they're leading the way there.
Could I just intervene?
Yeah.
Kiki's got one question.
Go
Are they
ahead.
counting footfall / dwell time in Colwyn Bay? They don't.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Do they count counting footfall and dwell time?
These don't. They can.
They can.
They can.
Okay.
But they don't. So
Okay.
that was a choice by Colwyn Bay to not have that option on there. It can be added another time. So that's the beauty of them. You know, once they're in the ground, the footfall, something like a footfall tracker, is the software side of it. So rather than the physical screen itself, it's just something that we can upload onto the screen to give it that capabilities. And we also have something called a data jam pack that we can literally put on the back and, you know, hide it, keep it all enclosed, that will then do that. And you can set the radius to how far you want it to count. So for example, you could say 100 meters or 300 meters and so on.
Okay. There's a couple of questions by Gary, but I think you're gonna get to them later. What are the costs to the town per screen and running costs?
Yeah, get into that.
And can the town control the content themselves?
Yes. Yeah. So the town completely controls the content. So these are something the Root Media have provided. The town has purchased from us, and they are in complete control of the content. So yeah.
Okay. One more, Leslie. Would it need planning permission? I think you're going to get to. Are you going to get to that later as well, or?
Yeah. But the answer is yes. If it's on private land, no. But in a public high street like this, for example, 100% it would need planning permission. Okay.
Kiki says, sorry. I mean, it's being counted independently by Wi-Fi or something. Would be good to see it before and after installation. Okay. Bethan saying, I saw them in Close on Sea on Sunday, so that's good. Lovely, good. I hope you like that. Oh, and then Gary's asking, how robust are the screens against vandalism? Gary, you're asking every question that's coming up. We'll leave it for now. Yeah. I like your mindset, Gary. I'm coming on to that one right now. But perfect, it leads me on. So these are a couple of the comments that have been taken from Facebook. So these are complete public comments, not tailored by me in any way whatsoever. So Tina, she's one of the key people from Colwyn Bay that helped us with this install, posted in a Colwyn Bay community group once they were up, and these are some of the comments. Now, to prove I've not just chosen the good ones, there's a question there similar, Gary. So it says, not one bus shelter can go a year without being vandalized. How resilient are these? And it's a fantastic question, because William actually pretty much asked me the same question as soon as I sent. I was like, look, they're so shiny, they're lovely. They are super slimline. What's going to happen? You know, can they resist the public and maybe the weather as well? So to prove to you guys how brilliant they are. Can everyone hear the sound? Yeah, we can hear it. The sound just helps. Yeah, it's a hard time. It's not a when I first watched it without the sound, and I thought it doesn't look like they're hitting it very hard, but when you hear it, you can tell. So that's our hammer test. And as you can see, that's the physical screen. So we've got a little bit of casing
around the sides and around the outside, but very, very minimal on the actual physical install. And that's because we are the only provider in the UK that offers the screen, as you can see there, as an IP67 rated screen. And that means it's completely vandal proof, as you can see with the hammer there. It's completely weatherproof, and it could even be submerged underwater. I'm actually taking one of these screens and we're putting it in a store similar to Homebase within a working shower display. So it's going to be constantly sat under running water. It's that weatherproof and also obviously that vandal proof. So the words I normally use is someone's most likely to break their baseball bat before they're going to break the screen or hurt themselves. So I'm hoping that Gary and a couple of the others, that answers your question on the resilience. And I'm going to move on now to a little bit more information about the product itself that we've looked at Colwyn Bay and that we're talking about. So we're obviously talking about the ultra slim outdoor display. I've put another picture there because you've got another option, or you've got as many options you want actually for the surround and the design of the framework. So we can completely bespoke framework, and you can have ultra slim. You don't have to. If you want it to be in a bigger, thicker, sturdier looking case, then that's absolutely fine. The screen will stay the same, and the resistance and the vandalism proof, etc., will all stay the same. We do various sizing, and it's probably worth pointing out as well that we can also do wall mounted. So they don't have to be standalone screens in the middle of a street, for example, or a shopping centre or whatever it may be. You can have them wall mounted, and we can display them in different ways. And we can then do smaller as well, from, I'd say, from about 32-inch screen. The commercial grade operation, that's really, really important, because the screen needs to be on all of the time. It needs to be able to run 24/7, and you don't want it glitching in a year's time. If you were to take a screen that you would buy for your home, that would only really be fit for purpose for 8 hours, 7 days a week. So 8/7 rather than 24/7. So commercial grade is super important. The screen quality as well, hopefully you could see within the video, and Bethan, when you actually saw them, but the QLED display, and that actually gives 30% more brightness, more clarity, and crystal kind of clear colors than your normal LCD display. So that would, again, if you compare it to your home, it's way more high quality and clearer, and it'll really pop to get that message. And like I said, it's all about drawing that attention in. So going to put a screen in somewhere, on a wall, whatever it may be, you want people's attention going to it. So what we also have, and again, super important part of the screen, is it needs to be high temperature or low temperature. We live in Wales after all. High temperature and high brightness. So what that basically means is, in direct sunlight, you need to still have the public able to see this screen. There's no point in paying thousands to put something in that then can't be seen in certain lighting conditions. So we've got high brightness and we've got high temperature, because when the sun does come out in this country, if it were to push right on that screen, we don't want to end up heat, overloading the screen and it breaking. So that's all technology that's built into our screens. It can withhold temperatures above 50 degrees, so we're good with that. And below lower than -20. So again, we're covered in this country. And we actually have fanless technology. So that means that the system is all built in the back of the screen. So you can opt for double-sided. We just put them back to back, but have the bits in between, which allows the screen to breathe, and it regenerates the energy that's conducted from the heating. So this is what makes it really energy efficient as well, and it cools itself. So what's important to know is that if anyone went up to touch the screen, which is absolutely fine, they can touch it, it's not going to burn you ever. It's never going to feel hot. So it might feel a little bit warm, but it won't feel hot. It wouldn't do any damage, and most importantly, it won't damage the public, ourselves, or the screen. And it's noise free because it's fanless. So it's really great. On top of that, we've got anti-reflection. Like I said, that's all about being able to view the screen even in the brightest of light conditions. To our human eye, we would see no difference to the brightness of screen, but the screen will adjust itself throughout the day as it needs to be. That means in the night, you're not going to have any night pollution. Because if you think in the daytime, it needs to be much brighter because there might be a lot of sunlight, you should be able to see it. In the night, you don't want it to be as bright. It'll do that automatically, but to the human eye, it'll look the same all of the time. So we're never going to have any night pollution. We're never going to have any noise pollution with these screens, which is fantastic. They're actually designed to last over 87,000 hours. If we put that in years, I'm not going to put it in days and minutes. If we put it in years, we're looking at least 7 years. So they are fit for purpose. They're fit to last. We offer as standard a 3-year hardware warranty and support on every single element of the screen themselves. So once they're in the ground, like I said, you may own them and you run the content, do everything, but we're here to help and we're here to service and provide you with as much support because they are here to last. It's future proof, and as I mentioned. Okay, we've touched upon this a little bit already, but there's optional extras that we spoke about, and I've just put a few that I believe would be relevant to you guys and to smart towns. So the footfall trackers that we spoke about are a great option on there, so we can look at how many people are, well, you can even go into how many people have just stood there actually looking at the screen, but if you put them in certain areas in the towns, for example, you can then check, are you increasing footfall into those towns over the period of time that it's there for. We can put air pollution tracking on there. I think I mentioned that one earlier. You can actually build in USB ports. So if you wanted to put them in areas in towns where, we're encouraging people to spend more times in our town centres and really sit there, pop a USB port in, let people charge their phones or do whatever they need to do there. You can be as smart as put an electric car charger in. We can pretty much, the options are endless. I've got to be honest with what can be done within the framework. We can completely tailor it. So these are just a couple of kind of ideas out there for you. And of course, Wi-Fi hubs as well. So you can use them as a hub spot in the towns, shopping centres, wherever you may be, to then provide Wi-Fi. It can be as simple as you could put a little QR code on the framework if you wanted it there permanently, or on the screen itself to just scan and join the Wi-Fi in the town. So there's lots of different things it can do. What's probably worth mentioning that I haven't put in the presentation is you can have touchscreen options as well. So anything that you see can be made to be touchscreen. It will still have everything I've discussed, so it won't impact the security in any way, shape or form. But if you wanted interactive screens, you can do so. Now, if you were to have an interactive screen, that would reduce your view to advertise. So what we normally say is if you want to give a number of different messages of advertising or services, whatever it may be, you probably upload it to change the content to a different message every 10 seconds. Now with touchscreen, it takes away that capability because you can't have the screen changing when somebody's trying to touch it and use it to go more. So there's a different way of really advertising that's obviously completely doable. It opens up a world of interaction for the customer and the public journey really into that town. So for example, you could create a menu which would click here for the town map or click here for restaurants or whatever it may be. But I'll come on to some of the software capabilities that would allow us to do that. So it's hard to narrow down because your options really are endless. I'm just trying to give everyone a couple of ideas of what can be done. And any questions, Will?
Yes, thank you for asking. We've got Owen asking, can you explain a little more about the footfall counting technology? Is it tracking smart devices such as phones or tablets or people movement?
We can do both. So the data jam box that I mentioned, that would track devices.
Yeah.
So that's how we do it. We actually, Root Media, actually use them ourselves on our advertising, billboards, etc. So we can track how many people are seeing our screens. And so that's one way of doing it. Our software, which I'll come on to, actually allows you to track how many views have been seen. So similar to what I've just said.
Yeah.
But it's smart enough that we can set it up to identify age and gender, and even things down to physical appearance. So for example, if you had a beard, I don't know what they call it. I was going to say sharp trimming. What are they called? Barbers?
The barbers. Anyway. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In town,
yeah,
we could set it up to recognize somebody with a beard is stood in front of the screen, and then change it to have the advert for that particular barbers. So it can be really, really smart. Or we can do it, like I said, to age. So you could use that footfall tracker to have a look to see, right, okay, well, actually, between 3 and 5, probably when schools are out or university or whatever it may be, our audience is much younger. So during those times, we're going to tailor the content that we show on the screen, and you can schedule all of this in advance. So it's about how we use that data that's been captured to then go, okay, well, this is the language and the style and the different events we're going to advertise at this time of day versus maybe what you would do between 10 and 3 p.m, for example, 10 a.m, 3 p.m. So yeah, there's a couple of different ways that we can do the footfall tracker, and we can work with you on a bespoke basis to what you would want from it, really.
With the kind of facial recognition, it doesn't save any data though. So if I went to the screen and saw I had glasses, it would recommend an optician, but it wouldn't keep that data with it.
No, so it could show us these are the majority of the adverts that have been playing at certain times. So what it would allow you to do is extract that data, and you would then be able to kind of cross-reference it and say, okay, the majority of the adverts that are constantly being played are XYZ because it's picking up on, like you said, glasses, for example.
Okay. Owen's asking, is it possible to have public charging ports? Well, you've answered that one.
Yeah.
What's required for the backhaul? Presumably Ethernet or 4G.
Yes, exactly. Now, if you don't have either of those things, then we can put the data SIMs in there. So there's an option of, we'll either pick up on any existing network, or we can create a new network using the screens with SIM cards.
Okay.
Or dongles, whatever, whatever.
Yeah. Leslie, once it's fitted, could we move to a later date or maybe a better location?
Yes, I mean, they fitted to be permanent in one location, but absolutely, there's nothing to say there would be no reason why we couldn't dismantle it and then fit it somewhere else. The only reason I would say you don't particularly want to do that is because of the groundworks that are involved, especially within a public place. So obviously we do need power, it's the main thing that we need go in there. So the groundworks are usually completed, and those would be, permanently placed. But absolutely, I mean, there's nothing to say that we couldn't dismantle and place it somewhere else in a few years' time, for example, if you really wanted to.
I guess it'd be easier just to buy another one off you.
Probably. I wouldn't recommend looking at the option to move it, but if you're really unhappy with where it was, then yeah.
Okay, Gary's asking, what are the privacy GDPR implications of essentially having a live camera? So we've kind of gone through that.
Yeah, perfect. I'm going to cover that off next as well.
Yeah. Who has access to the data, Kiki?
Yeah, I'll cover that too. Okay, so I'll move on. Okay, so we've covered most of the hardware, so the physical screens side of things. Oh, sorry, guys. There's someone at my door. Bound to happen. We'll cut this bit out. Okay, so then we move on to the software. So the software is then the capabilities of the screen. And actually, this is what's going to be the most important thing to look at for you, is what the screen can do, how it's going to reach your goals, rather than the physical screen itself. You know, we've covered that off. So we use a company called Now Signage to provide our software. Now Signage are UK based. They're absolutely fab. Now, it's cloud-based software, which of course means that you can control everything remotely. Sorry, I'm waving to my delivery driver. It means you can control everything remotely. So you can do that through an app. You can do it through a web browser. But to go back and to answer one of the questions that was just asked, it's completely safe and secure data control, because everything is hosted via an Amazon Web Service and in a virtual private cloud. Now, I can send over to anyone that would like it, basically a PDF document with all of the security information, because of course it's so important for you guys to know that with the data, it's yours. It's completely yours and only yours. Now, if you want us to access it remotely, which the only reason I would ever say that you might want to do this is if you want help with something. So you can say, call me up or call one of our colleagues up at Now Signage and say, okay, I fancy doing something a little bit different. Can you help me? You can give us permission to log into your account and view your screen and help you out. So that's purely from a support perspective, but the data is never ours to share, and we can't access it without your permission. So I think that's super important. Like I said, I can share a lot more information on that if you need it. And of course, with that, then it's completely UK and EU GDPR compliant. And again, I've got lots more information I can provide on that, but of course it's really, really important that that's yours to work with. I've covered a couple of bits already. Like I said, you can schedule content changes in advance, you can update. It's literally within 5 minutes. Normally 1 to 5 minutes is what we say is how quickly. So if you had a message on there that you thought, oh God, right, that's not working anymore, I need to take that down, or let's face it, there might be a typo. It happens. You can just go in and you can change it and it'll update pretty much instantaneously. It's super reliable and robust as well. So if we asked about that kind of internet connection question, if the internet were to go down, it runs on a loop. You're not constantly streaming off the internet connection. We just need that connection to be live for the updates to come through. So what we can also do is you can set kind of a playlist, I would call it. It's like a fallback, that if the connection completely wiped and anything happened, your screen won't go blank. It'll go to your fallback playlist. And that's really important because, I'm sure as everyone knows, with the general public, when you're looking at screens and you're dealing with them and you have the questions, how do you keep the content up to date and how are you going to make sure these are going to be used? You don't really ever want that screen turned off unless you want, unless you decided or planning have said in the night time, we want something else displayed. Then you've got that fallback option. So it's completely reliable and robust. I've touched upon the service and support. We provide training. And I promise you it's easier to use than Zoom, in my opinion. So it's great. You need a software license and you need a software license per screen, and that can be paid annually. Or normally what I would recommend is go for a 3-year payment, because look, you're not putting the screen in for a year. Like it is an investment, and opt for the 3-year license. You're covered for your 3 years then. And to give everyone an idea, it's roughly £300 for 3 years, so per screen for the license. So it's not big money we're talking about in any way, shape or form, and you have that full support package with it. I've already touched on a couple of bits of what the software can do, but I just wanted to point out some features that I think are worth mentioning. So it's super easy to use. It's a drag and drop upload system. So if anyone's ever used Dropbox, where you just move in files and you're dropping them in, or for just folders on your laptop, whatever it may be, it's as simple as that. We spoke about you can schedule content in advance as well. So you can change what you display Monday to Friday. You can change it throughout the day, like I mentioned. You can get Christmas ready now if you wanted to. You know, you can schedule up to years and years and years in advance. You can be as organized as you want to be. So it's really great. You've got unlimited asset storage. I mentioned that earlier already. So and again, once it's uploaded, it's yours, so nobody else has access to anything on there. And yeah, you've got unlimited files, so you can have as much fun as you want in I mean, my OCD would go mad if you just had unlimited files, but you can do it. So that's great. Localized traffic reports is something I haven't mentioned. So as standard, our software gives the capability of linking up with Google traffic reports, which you can localize to your area. So if at a certain time of day, so let's say peak traffic, so let's say between 7 and 9 a.m. and 4 and 6 p.m., you want to display traffic reports in your area, then the screen can do that. And I think the benefit of that for smart towns would really be, you don't want people driving and getting stuck in rush hour traffic, because the emissions are much higher when that happens. So if we can advertise better routes to take that have less traffic, then again, in turn, that's going to help with the carbon footprint and with our environmental impact. And obviously, it's just handy. It's just a great option for the community to provide that service. It's real time. We've spoken about that. You can update in real time. The data you're providing is going to be timely. It's going to be concise. You know, it's going to be as much as you want it to be, really. So that covers a number of kind of bases there. You can live stream. So may or may not be of interest, but you can automatically, as part of the software license, you can live stream from YouTube. So for example, Sky Sports News and Sky Sports have a live YouTube channel, that was hard to say, constantly. So if there is a big sporting event coming up and you want to display it within the town, you can stream it. You can also do that with BBC News, for example, or certain BBC channels. So the Jubilee is coming up next week. If we wanted to show the parade or whatever it may be, and you want to use the screens for that, that's an option on there. Again, this is no extra cost. This is everything that's built into the software. So you can actually do a lot more with it than just kind of display those simple messaging that we were saying. And worth pointing out, with YouTube, you don't need it. But if you were going to use, for example, the BBC channels that I mentioned, you would need a TV license. So that's just something to point out there. Similar to the traffic reports, we can do weather reports. We also spoke about the content triggers with the age and gender and certain characteristics. We can content trigger based on the weather. So we just spoke about, it's awful today, it's raining, it's horrible. Probably don't want to go down to the beach today. We want to encourage people to maybe go somewhere else on a rainy day, or on a really brilliant sunny day, you want to put your ice cream shops up, you know, you want to put your outdoor leisure facilities, and you want to advertise those. So you can content trigger based on the weather, but you can also show weather reports. So you can, and you can actually split the screen. So if exactly what we're doing now, where you can see my presentation, and I don't know, you may or may not be able to see me, but what you could do is show your normal advertisements and have a little box that's got the weather report on there. It shows you what the weather is for the next week or so. And of course, all within your local area of what you would want it. We've covered the content triggers. User permissions are really important. So this is when it comes down to who has access to this software and be able to upload. And you can really decide. So there's unlimited users, but there's all different permissions. So if you wanted an overarching town, let's say, for example, let's use Colwyn Bay. So they've got 4 different screens. You may want one person that's got access to all 4 screens, but actually have a dedicated person that just controls the content for each. You can do that. So you can give permissions based on different files, different folders, exactly what we probably all do within our work and within our shared databases now. So again, it gives that extra level of security if you need it. I'm going to skip proof of play and come back. Social media integration is similar. to what I mentioned about the weather report and having that split screen, you could live stream your social media account. So if you wanted to provide all of the updates that you're given on Twitter throughout the day and have that kind of rolling down the bottom of the screen or in a corner or whatever it may be, you can do that. So you can integrate, I can't speak today, honestly, guys. Integrate your social media. And yes, proof of place. So this is what I wanted to come on to last. And that's because we've touched upon it a little bit already. If you go in to look at using these as an advertising option and in the future to gain back some revenue, so to take advertising revenue and income from it, proof of play is going to be important to you. For that, it's going to be important anyway, because that's going to allow you to provide evidence of, we shared your ad to this many people across the week. So for example, 100,000 people saw it between Monday the 10th and Friday the 24th. I don't know, the date's probably not right, but it gives you that technology of doing it. Now, these aren't all the software features. There's a lot more as standard. If you're looking at office screens, you can stream your Microsoft Business analytics. There's kind of lots of different bits, but I've tried to pick out just a few that I think that would be most beneficial for this call today. Okay, any questions at this point?
I don't think there's anything in the chat. We'll wait a second, but is there any software that you can maybe like say how the facilities in the town and you could interact? Is that been covered? Sorry.
As in to advertise the facilities of the town?
No, well, let's say there was an event in a town or city.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you could like say how it went, maybe really briefly. Could they gather information like that as well through these screens?
To ask for feedback?
Yes, in a way.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, definitely. I think that what you could do is maybe you'd look at something, you'd want a touch screen for that.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Of course. But yeah, I think that what you could 100% do is get people to put green or red,
like a thumbs up
or thumbs down, or the smiley faces, you know, we can look at the NPS tracker on there. So if you wanted to say, you know, would you recommend to come back again, and you do the 0 to 10 on the referral scale, then we could look at NPS tracking to be built into the software. But certainly, I mean, there's two ways you can do it. So you could do that through a touch screen, or again, you could put an advert on there with perhaps a QR code or with a link that then encourages people to scan it on their phone and maybe complete a longer survey on there.
Okay, so that's actually another way of doing it.
Yeah, there's two ways of doing it. So yeah.
No questions.
Okay, fabulous. Right, important bit then, prices. Now what I've spoken about today is the ultra slim model and the totem, so the kind of the standalone framework, etc. So to give you an idea of prices, I just put a 55-inch. Now that's what we did in Colwyn Bay. So that gives you an idea on the size there. So a single-sided, which would be completely custom-made totem, starts from 10,500, and a double-sided, 17,500. Now, that includes everything we've spoken about today. So that's all of the hardware, the groundworks, the software licensing, the service and support. The only thing it doesn't cover is the physical installation costs and the electrical works. Now, usually the electrical works are carried out by our client, whoever they want to get the work done. So when we spoke about would you want to move them from any place, usually planning permission and the councils have put a lot of work into the ground and getting it where it needs to be, and obviously there's a cost associated with that, which we tend to not get involved with. Which is why I probably said I wouldn't recommend you want to really move it unless it's on private land. It is much easier for you to do so. Now, this is our top-notch, highest spec, newest model. So that's why it's the ultra slim and everything that we spoke about. We've got alternatives where the screen would be the same. So we'd still chat about everything that we spoke about with regards to the vandalism and the software and all of that jazz. But just the framework would be a little bit different. So like I said, if you wanted a bigger option, you weren't too bothered about it being, you know, kind of ultra slim, that brings the cost down. So it's just to give you guys an idea. Now, I'm obviously going to recommend the best product to you, but not from a sales perspective. It's from what you're looking to do is future-proof your towns and innovate. Now, you want these to be in here for at least 7 years, probably 10 years. I'd be wrong if I didn't give you what the newest and highest spec was today and give you actually something that was from 2 or 3 years ago. But the options are there, with moving costs around and playing them around a little bit as well. Fab, okay. I think we've covered everything, but hit me with it.
Okay, any more questions? Any more questions? I'll wait a second. So could I ask,
Yeah.
could I have a dual screen, one of them with information and one of them with adverts? That's possible.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So if I go back, the reason for it's slightly less than double, isn't it, for the double-sided price? Now, if you think about it, we're having 2 screens back to back. And what we would be doing is we'd be putting software on one screen, we're putting software on another. So what you would do, and what I've done in the price example, is you'd have a software license for each screen. So absolutely, that would allow you could have one touch screen doing what you want it to do, and you could have one doing the adverts. They're completely different. You could run completely different content on it and dual purpose. So 100% you can do that. And now if you wanted them to be the same, then actually I would say we would just put one software license to cover both screens. But what that's going to do is that's not going to allow you any flexibility. They would be identical at all times. But certainly the idea, I would say, of the double-sided is even if they had the same content, you might run the different messaging in a different order or at different times. So it's, for me, for the sake of £100 a year, it's worthwhile having the dual licensing just to give you the option of having them to run different content.
Still no questions.
Hopefully that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a really good thing. I think, yeah, we've covered quite well. You've covered quite a lot.
I'm just going to put, here's my details, and Scott, my colleague, who's up in North Wales, there's his info as well, but like, we're going to share this. So, so that's all there. And if I stop sharing my screen now, I can probably see the questions as well.
I think you can. There we go. I think you've covered all my questions. So nobody with any more questions for Amy? You've spoken really well. I can't imagine.
Oh, thank you very much. Apologies for my
I was going to
random delivery driver in the middle. I knew something was going to happen.
You said before you all joined, you said, I've given him a bone, so he will bark. And there we go.
He was always going to bark at a delivery guy.
To be fair, the lights were going off every 5 minutes, so I was trying to move about to see if I get the lights. Okay, well, if that's everything, well, thank you so much for joining us, Amy.
Thank you, everyone, for coming and listening to me, and reach out to me afterwards or to Will and feed anything back in. If there's anything particularly you want to know about in more detail, of course, let us know as well. And
yeah, I'll share your details in an email with everybody that's joined as well, just to make it easier. And I'm going to put this on YouTube and possibly on social media. And anybody who's joined us, you can't see faces or anything like that, so I hope you don't mind. If you do have a problem, if you could email me, that would be great. Okay.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ta-ta.